Well, welcome everybody. This is Joel Gabrielson, the Marketing Director for Nutridyne. I hope you guys can all hear me, and good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to the webinar on how to incorporate MyOrigin to your practice. I'm sure you are as excited as we are to have this excellent tool to provide you DNA data to help you in your treatment decisions. Today we have an excellent speaker. Her name is Dr. Jessica Nurek. She is the Director of Clinical Product and Education at MyOrigin, here to discuss how MyOrigin and how it can incorporate this state-of-the-art DNA tool into your practice, and how the results of this test can help you and your patients. We are going to do about a 45-minute webinar, and then we're going to do some questions and answers in that last 15 minutes. So please hold all your comments until then. And then, without further ado, we're going to have Dr. Jessica Nurek take it away.
Thanks so much, Joel. Hi, everyone. Welcome. So today, as Joel kind of mentioned, we're going to talk about MyOrigin and defining a path to personalized health and wellness. So when I got my start in this field, I was actually a professor at the University of Nevada, and I was running a lot of clinical trials, running a research lab. And when we were running those trials, what we would see is, let's say it was an 8-week dietary intervention or an 8-week exercise intervention. And what you do is you take a control group, just as most of you know, and then you also have an intervention group. And so we would put the intervention group on a specific diet, whatever we were looking at the time, and measure outcome measures. And so let's say one of those outcome measures was weight. And after 8 weeks, we would look at the data, and on average, our cohort of, let's say it was 50 people, would lose about 6 pounds on average after an 8-week intervention. But then what you would do, and what we would look at, because we had the data available to us, is we would extrapolate the data and look at the individual variability of those individuals who were either losing or gaining weight. And you would see this marked individual variability with individuals on the exact same diet plan. And this was after controlling for all other factors. And so it got me thinking, what is it that is causing this individual variability? And that's what brought me into this field of genetics and looking at these genetic variations that we all have that can really impact how we respond to external stimuli. And so that's what we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about today, because this is a revolutionary time, and we're actually able to test and utilize this in our practice right now and see an individual, basically an individual blueprint and how they respond to different individual stimuli. So I'd like to pose a question and start thinking about this more holistically. So what if there was a way to essentially utilize innovative technology and marry this genotypic testing or the blueprint of an individual with phenotypic testing that we all do, questionnaires, blood tests, microbiome tests, to really get a true holistic view of your patients and finally be able to work with them and treat them on an individual level that really addresses this individual variability that we've seen in the lab and that we all see every day in our real lives and in our practices. So over the next 30 to 45 minutes or so, I'd like to spend a little bit of time going over 3 primary objectives. So number 1, break down the science behind DNA testing and look at how it directly relates to health outcomes. Number 2, demonstrate how practitioners are using genetic testing in their practice to improve client outcomes and also increase revenue. And number 3, introduce you to MyOrigin, which is Nutridyne's preferred genetic testing solution and what's available to all of you. So we know that health and phenotypic markers, so things like even eye color at a basic level and any health outcome you can think of, is truly an interaction between our genes and our environment, right? So how are our genetics predisposing us to different things, but how is our environment either triggering those genes or suppressing those genes to actually be expressed? And so looking at this interaction or this epigenetic variability in individuals really allows us to understand individuals from a phenotypic perspective or from a health perspective. And we know that patients' ability to understand and act on their personal health profile, which is all of this data that they're able to gather now, even from a direct-to-consumer perspective, will really be key to improving health outcomes in America. So in 2003, we finished mapping the human genome. So the Human Genome Project was finished, and it was a roughly 10-year, $3 billion international effort to basically determine all 6 billion DNA letters, or 3 billion base pairs of the human DNA. And what we discovered was there's anywhere in an individual human, anywhere from 20 to about 25,000 genes. Like I said, 6 billion DNA letters. And within those genes, there's about 10 million SNPs. And SNPs are referred to as single nucleotide polymorphisms. And whenever I say genetic variability, that's essentially what we're looking at. We're looking at these SNPs. And what's really interesting about what we found out, which was very surprising, was that if you look at the entire human population, over 99% of us, in terms of DNA, are exactly the same. So it's about 99.9% of all DNA in the human population is exactly the same. So it's in that less than 0.01% that really all individual variability occurs and lies. And that's what we're looking at when we look at these SNPs and how individuals are really responding differently to different environmental stimuli. So the impact of these SNPs, or single nucleotide polymorphisms, and remember, we have about 10 million of them that have been identified. Most of those 10 million really have no impact on human health. But some do impact health and development. And that's really where we spend our time looking at these SNPs and really focus. And MyOrigin really identifies quite a lot of these to provide to you. So there's different response to drugs, and this is called pharmacogenomics, so how individuals respond differently to pharmaceutical drugs. Response to dietary factors, this is called nutrigenomics, so how does one individual respond to vitamin D, for example, versus another. Susceptibility to environmental factors. So we look at detox pathways and we look at how people respond to different toxins in the environment. Response to type of exercise. I've heard this called exergenomics or kinesiogenomics, but looking at how individuals can respond to, let's say, endurance training versus more of a strength training protocol. And then risk of developing certain diseases. So there's certain genes, and most of these genes are working polygenically. So you have a cluster of genes or multiple genes that are working together that really look at risk of developing certain diseases. So these are a few, just in terms of omics in action, looking at different genes that can have some more impactful can be more impactful on an individual's health. And many of these genes are probably quite familiar to you, particularly MTHFR, which is involved in the methylation pathway, really circulating folate, folate metabolism and decreasing homocysteine. You also have other genes that work in different areas, and I'm going to present a couple of case studies to really look at how these genes are impacting individuals and how they can impact you as a practitioner in terms of helping your patients, especially the ones where maybe they're a little bit more complex and it's more difficult to pinpoint the exact root cause. So I'm going to go over two different case studies. The first is hypertensive Bob. So Bob is a pretty traditional case we've likely many of us have seen. So he's middle-aged, he's married with 2 teenage children. He works a desk job, so he claims that he leads a pretty inactive life. He was just in for a physical and he was diagnosed with mild hypertension. He's very motivated and he's expressed motivation to change his diet and his behavior, but he does claim that he has a hard time eating healthy because foods taste, quote, bland and they have no flavor. And so it's difficult to get Bob to eat more vegetables and more bitter tasting foods because he's used to these hyper satiating foods and he's used to a lot of fat, a lot of sugar, and a lot of salt in his diet. So trying to figure out how to overcome that with Bob is going to be a struggle. So if we look at how genetic testing can help us here, one of the key genes that we look at involved with hypertension, and in MyOrigin there's an entire cardiometabolic panel, and hypertension is one of those traits within that panel. But ACE is one of the genes that we're going to look at here, and ACE as most of you know, is angiotensin converting enzyme. An angiotensin converting enzyme, the actual enzyme, is encoded by the ACE gene. And angiotensin converting enzyme works in the aldosterone renin cycle to convert angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. And so what you see here is, if you're looking right here, you need ACE, you need the gene ACE in order to actually encode for the protein that actually allows this conversion to happen, which helps to reduce blood pressure. So if you have a variation in this gene, and some people do have a variation in this gene, you're not going to produce as much enzyme, as much ACE enzyme, in order to adequately convert angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, which can cause a bit more hypertension in individuals. And so this can be one of the causes of hypertension in certain individuals. So if we're looking at that from a genetic perspective, what we would see is that, and what we've seen in the literature, and this is one of the things we provide in your reports, is that individuals differ in blood pressure response when consuming sodium. And most of us know this when we've been working with patients. Some individuals are salt sensitive, meaning that if they consume a lot of sodium, their blood pressure tends to rise. And some individuals are not salt sensitive, and they actually don't have this same issue, and you don't see a rise in blood pressure with increased sodium intake. And so if you just look at the literature, we've never really parsed out what it is that makes someone salt sensitive versus not, when we're strictly looking at sodium's impact on hypertension. So many times you'll hear that if somebody has hypertension, they should consume less than 1,500 milligrams of sodium. Well, for those that aren't salt sensitive, particularly Bob, so let's say Bob has the normal variant and isn't salt sensitive, and one of his main struggles is really getting him to eat foods because he thinks everything tastes bland, perhaps Bob can actually utilize a bit more sodium to help that food not taste bland, because he actually doesn't respond negatively to sodium from a hypertensive level. So that's one way we can utilize genetics to really help us in treating Bob, because he's going to be much more successful if he's able to eat the foods that we're recommending to him. Okay, the second case study is chronically tired Patty. So Patty is also a common case that many of us have seen. She's a wife and a mom of a younger 12-year-old boy. She works in HR. She works full time. And unfortunately, she's used up her sick days this year. So she's constantly feeling like she's getting sick. She's coming down with a cold. She claims that she feels down a lot of the time. She feels exhausted all of the time. And she's currently, because she was told by her doctor to take 2,000 IU of vitamin D daily, but upon measuring her levels, she's still measuring less than 20 nanograms per mil, even despite taking 2,000 IU of vitamin D. And she can't seem to figure out what's going on, and she's just feeling really down all the time. So if we look at this from a genetic or a genomic perspective, GC is a gene that's involved with vitamin D metabolism. And GC is involved in binding vitamin D to its receptor site to basically transport through your entire body to different body tissues that need vitamin D. And you'll see GC right here. It acts in the binding part of vitamin D. So if you look at the entire vitamin D cascade, essentially you have the active form of vitamin D, and then that active form really has to bind to its receptors in order to be taken to body tissues. So some individuals who have a variation in GC have a reduced binding capacity. So even if they're consuming, let's say 2,000 IU, or they're on a supplement of 2,000 IU, their binding capacity is low. So they're not actually getting the full benefits of that 2,000 IU. So in this case, many patients, and you have many patients coming into your clinic, and their vitamin D levels are often elusive. So you have them on a supplement, and they're still coming back with low vitamin D levels. And what we found in the research and the literature is that those with a GC variant, so individuals who have the variant gene, are 49% more likely to have serum levels below 20 nanograms per mil. So it's really important to look at this, especially if you're struggling with somebody in terms of getting their vitamin D levels up. And patients with this variant will not respond adequate to typical dosing. And what we recommend and what's in your reports, because we include all of these recommendations that we've gone through the research and gone through from a clinical eye to supply, is that you increase typical dosing. So typical dosing is not going to work for this individual if they have the variant gene, and they really need a more aggressive initial strategy to push delivery to those tissues. And so for some individuals, let's just take a look at the normal gene. So normal gene, what we would normally recommend for supplementation, maybe 3,000 to 5,000 IU, and lab testing looking at 25 OH. For the variant gene though, so let's say you have someone's basically blueprint or you have their genomic data and you see that they have this variant in GC, perhaps you'll start them at a more aggressive supplementation strategy to really inundate those tissues with the vitamin D. And so perhaps giving them anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 IU is going to be what this individual needs. And then you can initially, and then kind of bringing them more off of that. And then lab testing, we would recommend much more frequent vitamin D testing for this individual because it is going to be an issue for them. But this is a great showcase of how you can use genetic data and then figure out environmentally how you can use protocols to overcome those genetics for your individual clients. So the last thing I'd like to say here on SNP considerations is SNPs, or these single nucleotide polymorphisms, really provide information about the propensity toward a phenotype. So it's one part of this holistic model of looking at personalized lifestyle medicine, right? So you can see right here, genomic profiling, SNPs, epigenetics. This is really where you're looking right here, and you're pairing this with functional biomarker testing. So marrying this genomic testing with this phenotypic testing that we're already all doing to really get this holistic view or a complete picture of your patient. So why engage? We truly believe at MyOrigin that genetic testing and genetic information will revolutionize healthcare. We also believe that it'll lead to more efficient protocols. You're able to cut down on trial and error a lot easier. If you have someone's genetic data and you're looking at someone with common symptoms, you can look at where is this problem likely stemming for this individual and really target it from that level. And it also leads to more efficient results for your clients, which is going to get them better faster. There's also increased revenue potential, which I'm going to talk about in a little while, in terms of how using this data and this essentially science-based approach to recommendations for whether that be supplements or whether that be further testing, so phenotypic testing, because those recommendations are in the report, can be really helpful for this increased revenue for your practice. And then we know that consumers want this information, but not many healthcare providers or not many healthcare practitioners are actually providing the information. So a study recently came out that showed that 53% of American consumers are actually interested in genetic testing, but only 7% say their practitioner has discussed it with them. And market research has just come out and says that the market's expected to triple in just the next 5 years alone. So by 2024, the market's expected to triple. So this is a really great time to basically get in at an early stage and start utilizing this. And the practitioners that we're already working with are getting known for this in their field, and they're getting more referrals from clients because they want their genetics tested and they want their genetics used in their overall healthcare plan. Okay, so I'd like to spend a little bit of time introducing you to MyOrigin and kind of talking you through what the product looks like and how you're able to access it and use it. So MyOrigin is really an end-to-end genomic testing solution. And so what we mean by that is we do everything from the initial testing for you. So you do the ordering, and then we send that to the lab and we do the actual DNA testing. And then we also provide you with an online platform. So you're going to get the test kits. You'll get your own portal, your own online platform where you do all of the ordering, you do all of the customization that we allow, and then you get all of the reports for your clients. We also have a whole education portal within that online platform for those of you who feel like you want to learn a little bit more or go deeper in certain SNPs or certain areas. There's a lot of education in there. We allow standard and customized panel ordering, which I'm going to go over in more detail. And then reporting, we report with what we call a health action plan, and that health action plan is customizable. So I'll show you what that looks like and all of the recommendations within that. So we make recommendations basically in 5 domains of health, what we call 5 domains. So nutrition, supplements, exercise, lifestyle, which is things like sleep, stress reduction, and then further testing, which is going to be that phenotypic testing. We make those recommendations for you based on what's in the research and from our clinical eye, and you are actually able to go in there and customize to meet your needs. So whether that be a name brand that you want to put in, or whether you want to remove a recommendation or add another one. We have both wellness and chronic condition testing. So we have something called Wellness Pro, and we have something called Healthcare Pro, which are more medical-based panels. And so we'll be able to, let me actually just show you that coming up. So essentially our medical-based panels go off of the functional medicine systems-based panels. And so in terms of the 7 systems, we have 7 different panels that follow those functional medicine systems. And like I said before, these are fully customizable. So not only are the recommendations fully customizable, but the actual panels themselves are customizable. So once I show you a couple of the panels, you'll get a better understanding of this. But let's say we take cardiometabolic, and cardiometabolic is a panel that you want. You can also add traits. So let's say you want cardiometabolic, but you also want cortisol and estrogen from the hormone panel. You can actually take a cardiometabolic panel and then also add in those traits for your individual client. So that's fully customizable. You can make your own panels. So basically designing your own custom panel, and it can say, you know, Dr. Smith's custom panel. And then we also have thought leader panels that are coming soon. So you'll be able to purchase thought leader panels as well. Our panels were really developed for functional medicine and integrative medicine practitioners, allowing DNA data to inform their treatment decisions. So if we look at the MyOrigin panels, we have both wellness products and then we have healthcare products. And so the wellness products, we look at things like nutrition optimization. So how basically micronutrient testing, how your body's responding to different nutrients. And this is really where I recommend starting, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. We also have a weight management panel. We have a health enrichment panel, which is a little bit of everything if you just want a overall assessment from a wellness perspective for your patient. We also have endurance, performance, and elite fitness. And then for our healthcare panels, like I said, we go over those 7 functional medicine systems. So GI, detox, immune, hormone, cardiometabolic, energy fatigue, and then cognitive decline. So there's a lot on this slide, but I basically wanted to break down just the products and the respective traits. So if you look at our wellness products, in MyOrigin, weight management is called Control. So Control has dietary factors involved. So looking at things like obesity and saturated fat, you're looking at eating behaviors that are involved in weight, metabolic factors, and then sleep and also stress. For Optimize is nutrition, so looking at things like nutrient deficiencies. Then you have Peak, which is more of a fitness-related product, so you'll see things like muscle fiber type, and then Power Up, which is basically a sampler, so you'll be able to see many different things. And then our healthcare products. So if you look at our healthcare products, again, they follow those systems, those functional medicine systems. So, and all of the traits are there. You also have these all available to you in your in your portal. And so I know this is a lot to take in right now, but it just gives you some ideas of what some of the traits are under this. And again, this is fully customizable. So let's say, we'll just stay on cardiometabolic. Let's say you want cardiometabolic. and you also want rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis. You can actually add rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis to cardiometabolic and create a custom panel. Or you can create a fully custom panel, which is I'm going to take this trait and this trait and this trait and just put them all into a panel, depending on your needs for your individual client. We report results in what we call a health action plan. So essentially, we look at over 500 different SNPs, and we're constantly updating this. So we're making updates when the research allows. So we have a pretty rigorous research system and scientific-based system. And so we only include SNPs that have rigorous science behind them, and we actually grade that science, and in your practitioner reports you'll get the research grade. So you'll get an impact grade based on how impactful that SNP likely is from a physiological perspective, and you'll also get a research grade, how strong is the research in terms of the impact that this can have. So that'll all be available to you. We look at scientific evidence-based recommendations. We only use human trials when we're looking at our recommendation research. And again, we look at it from those 5 domains. So we give supplement recommendations, nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, and further testing. And then all of that is fully customizable. So this is what a health action plan might look like. It'll tell you the genes that we're testing for, what the result actually is. And then after this, you'll get the recommendation research. So looking at pricing, let's just take Healthcare Pro for right now. So let's keep on with cardiometabolic. So looking at cardiometabolic, a test kit, which is basically a cheek swab. So it's very easy. You can drop ship that to your client, or you can stock them in your clinic. So that's up to you, and you could do either one through your portal. So you can choose to have kits sent to your clinic, or you can just drop ship to individual patients, depending on your business model. So that test kit, which is again just a cheek swab, plus 1 panel, so let's say it's cardiometabolic, is going to cost you $135 at wholesale. We recommend MSRP at $159, but you're welcome to obviously charge whatever you would want in your clinic. We have practitioners who charge much more than that. You also, and this is one of the great things about this, you can pair that with, let's say, a genetic consult, or you can pair it with a supplement bundle, and you could charge much more. There's a lot of perceived value in genetic testing, and so it's pretty endless with the ways that you can come up with to charge for these. But for us, your price, your cost is $135 for a test kit plus 1 panel. Each additional healthcare panel, so let's say you order cardiometabolic and hormone. Cardiometabolic will be $135, hormone will then be $35. The reason is we've already done the genetic testing, so we've already sequenced the DNA of your patient, and so our cost drops markedly, so your cost drops markedly. So anytime you add a panel after you've already purchased one, it drops to $35, and you're able to charge MSRP if you want, so you can charge the same exact price that you would for the first panel, for the second panel, and so on and so forth. For our Wellness Pro panels, so that's things like nutrition, that's going to be $125 at wholesale. We recommend $149, but again, you can charge what you would. And then any additional panel is $25. So let's say you choose nutrition and then you choose power, which is that fitness product. That would be $25. And again, you can choose to charge what you want. And then pricing gets a little different when we talk about custom trait panels and custom raw data panels. And so you can see that right there. So for ordering, there's a couple of ways to order. So again, you can choose from standard panels. So once you get into the dashboard, you'll be able to see we have many just basic standard panels. So whether that's hormone or cardiometabolic, and you can go in and just choose that, and you don't have to do any customization on your part, and then you can order it, and that'll get sent to our lab. Or you can customize your order, and the customization allows you to basically customize by trait. So let's say you want cortisol. Cortisol would be a trait, and you can add that in. You can also just add in individual genes if you want. So let's say you want cardiometabolic, but you also want COMT or MTHFR. right, and they're not actually in that panel, you can actually order those genes in addition to the panel. And then you can also order individual SNPs if you want to. So just the variation of that particular gene. So whether that's MTHFR C677T, you can just order that SNP. So customization, there's a lot of different options there. And then we have thought leader panels that are coming soon, which will also be available to you. So someone's individual hormone panel that you may respect and you want to go with their panel, that's going to be available. Again, reporting, we allow for customization of client results. So you can customize the recommendations to essentially match your protocols. You can add or delete recommendations. You also can basically make it look like the report is coming just from your office. So essentially a brand report cover with your logo. And your name, and the title can be basically white labeled for you, so branded for your practice. So whether it says Dr. Smith's DNA-based weight loss program, and then they're going to get their entire report. And basically it looks like it's coming from your practice. So I'd like to spend a little bit of time just going through basically the flow of how this looks for you, so you can see it from your dashboard. So this is the MyOrigin My Account dashboard that you're all likely familiar with, and you'll see MyOrigin is sitting right here between saved credit cards and patients, and you'll just click on this. And then you'll see Enter MyOrigin. And so this will explain what MyOrigin is. You can enter MyOrigin. And then you're going to be brought to the home page here. So it'll talk to you about welcome you to MyOrigin. You'll see you can view your clients here. So any clients you've already added will be viewable right here. You'll be able to look at any of the panels. This is where you'll do the ordering, which is within the panels. And then resources, this is our resource section, which has all of the education content that we were talking about. So that we provide you with any education resources that you need. There's an introductory course in there that will walk you through essentially the science behind DNA testing and how you can start using this in your practice, very much like what we're talking about today, but more in depth. I think it's about a 90-minute course. There's case studies in there, and there's other helpful educational materials. So we'll click on View Panels. And then this is where you'll see the different panels that you're able to order. So there's cardiometabolic, immune, and so on and so forth. You can order any of these panels. So we'll choose cardiometabolic here. You'll see that we offer you what the traits, so the number of traits within each panel, which vary depending on the panel. So detox is the biggest with 16 traits, but cardiometabolic has 7, but those traits are much more robust than, say, the detox panel. So you'll see there's 68 genes where there's 22 genes here. So we'll order the cardiometabolic panel. And here you can order for yourself. So let's say you want to order a kit for yourself because you want to try this out. This is where you go to do that. You can order for an existing client or a new client. If you choose to order for a new client, you're going to have to go and enter all of the new client information. So if we choose existing clients, essentially we'll click this right here. A drop-down menu will come down here and you'll choose the client that you want to order for. So let's say we dropped down and we chose a client. This is where you will be taken. So this is within that individual client. You'll see this is test client, but this will actually say your client's name. And what you can see here is they're an existing client. So essentially we've already ordered GI, cognitive, and energy fatigue. So for this person, GI would have been 135, cognitive would have been 35, energy and fatigue would have been 35. So that order has been placed. You can see already purchased. But let's say we want to go back now and we want to add in cardiometabolic. So we click cardiometabolic. You can see the price for that is 35. It drops from 135 because you've already ordered the first panel. So this kind of shows you don't have to do all of it at one time. You certainly can. But if you want to go back, let's say a month or two later and order another panel for this exact same client, you can do that. And you add that in. And then you get the total wholesale price. And so you'll see the MSRP price, but you'll get wholesale. And you can click next. And then you'll see here that it just will tell you the price, and then you can click pay. You'll have a credit card on file. So we have you sign up. When you sign up, you can actually put a credit card on file, and that way all of the all of the wholesale price is just taken from that credit card, and then you can charge your client however you choose to do that in your practice. So if you click pay, and then you'll get the order successfully placed screen, which will tell you basically the summary and everything that you just purchased. From here, you can actually go up to print invoice up there in the top right-hand corner. And from there, you'll be able to generate a customer bill. And so you can generate the customer bill, and you can they'll be able to see, you can put in the markup there. So however much you're choosing to sell this for, you can actually put in there, and then you can generate that customer bill for your patient and then send it to them that way. And you can also generate an invoice for yourself. So we believe that MyOrigin truly will help your practice. It clearly will help your clients to basically get results faster. They'll be, like I said, you'll be able to cut down on trial and error and really help them to get healthier faster, especially for those patients, those complex patients where there's just a lot of things are eluding you. You'll be able to basically look at the blueprint of this person and maybe target in on some areas that you wouldn't otherwise target in on. We think that DNA testing will help you to attract new clients. I talked about the market research, looking at the market opportunity right now, and really there is a huge opportunity. So some of the practitioners that we're working with now say that this word of mouth is with genetics is really strong for them. So they'll have patients go and tell their friends or tell their family that they're the genetic testing doctor to go to them to get genetic testing done. And it really is bringing in more referrals. It also will enhance existing client experiences, which will keep your clients with you longer. And then there's increased overall revenue potential. So whether that is just in the margin that you're making on these tests, I think that the revenue potential really comes more into play when you look at the ability to package this. So you're able to package, let's say you want to do, you work with a health coach and you want to have an 8-week health coaching or a genetic coaching sessions with your health coach. So you do an 8-week program, the health coach meets with them a handful of times. And then you also have bundled in that package a supplement bundle that's unique to them. So based on what their report says that they most likely need to focus on. And you can bundle that together. You can also refer out to different further testing from our further testing recommendations. So whether that's lab testing, some of them are more like chiropractic care, so that type of thing. And you can basically use it as an extension of your practice to basically validate maybe what you're already doing. So protocols you would already suggest for your patient, but now you have a basically scientific way and a personalized way to show your patient, this is really what your body needs, and it can help to validate what you're doing. So when you're thinking about using genetic testing, because genetic testing offers this bio-individualized roadmap to help you cut down on trial and error and really identify specific areas of focus, we recommend using it as a part of an onboarding process with all clients. And I've worked with some practitioners who are doing this and basically branding their practice as this, get underneath the hood, see what's going on with you from an individual genetic perspective. And once you know an individual's genetics, you're able to build in specific protocols to address those underlying predispositions. So whether that's vitamin D and your protocol is going to be a higher dose of vitamin D, or it's a holistic nutrition perspective for your client based on their nutrient needs. I recommend starting off with a wellness panel. Many of us as practitioners, we use diet as a foundational piece of our recommendations for clients, so I recommend starting there. And then take a look at various genetic markers that might be impacting their nutrition status or how they could be optimizing their diet for outcome or longevity. And then really the next step, once you have that baseline, is to look at particular traits or conditions if you have a patient that presents with that, and then you can add in those. So perhaps you have someone coming to you with hormone issues or fatigue. You can get that basic wellness panel, and then you can look at specific genes that deal with those particular conditions and see recommendations to help support those genetic predispositions. And this truly allows them to find relief faster. And I always like to end talks like this with Just this quote from Ronald Reagan, which is status quo, is Latin for the mess we're in. And we really believe that innovations in the delivery of healthcare can result in more convenient, more effective, and less expensive treatments for today's time-stressed and increasingly empowered healthcare consumers. And using genetic testing really is an innovative way to help individualize and improve the health of your patients. And we truly believe MyOrigin is the first step in doing that. And we've built this product over the last couple of years with practitioners, and we, as practitioners, have built it for practitioners. And so we're truly proud of it, and we think it's something that can be impactful and very helpful to your patients and to you as the clinician. Thank you, guys. So if you have any questions outside of this particular webinar, you can reach us at MyOrigin@Nutridyne.com.
Sorry, Jessica, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, reach out to us at MyOrigin@Nutridyne.com, and then I'm happy to spend the next probably 20 minutes or so answering questions right now. So thanks, guys, for your time.
Dr. Jessica, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that information. I know it was a lot of information to cover in a short period of time, and it's just so amazing what we can do with the DNA and this information and how it can help our patients. So now what we're going to do, everyone, is we're going to take some time to answer some questions. As you can see, there's a little, in the GoToWebinar panel, you can see there's a little hand that you can raise your hand to ask a question. Instead of me turning everybody's mics on, why don't you go ahead and if you have a question, you can raise your hand. And we've also had some write their questions in. So Dr. Jessica, if you don't mind, we can kind of go back and forth. I'll read some of these questions for you, and maybe you can take them one by one here.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect. So the first one is, do you check multiple SNPs, for example, D3 uptake levels? And the follow-up question to that is, MyOrigin responsive to practitioner requests for including new SNPs?
Yeah, so the first question, in almost all of our traits, maybe all of them, we look at multiple genes. So we really prioritize looking at a polygenic approach and how these genes are interacting with one another. So particularly with vitamin D levels, we test for, I know, at least 3 genes and likely more than 3 SNPs within those genes, looking at vitamin D uptake levels and how those are interacting. And then when we report that out, we actually will give the gene definition and show you how that gene is working at a physiological level so that you know the area to focus on. So whether that's at the receptor site or at a different place in the uptake of vitamin D.
Perfect. Another one is, can you please elaborate on thought leader panel?
Yeah, I think I skipped one of your questions. It was the responsiveness to practitioner requests. So we are very responsive to practitioner requests. So like I said, we've built these panels with practitioners. And so if there's something that's missing or that you are interested in, we have a whole science team that's working every day to basically go through the science and figure out what we need to be coming out with next. So we have these panels right now, but we're always adding to them when the science allows. And then for the thought leader panels, yeah, I can elaborate a bit. So we don't have these out yet, but there are specific thought leaders in the functional medicine and integrative medicine space that we've been working with who are designing their own panels. And so these are likely more well-known docs who are going to design a panel for us. And that is open to anyone who's interested in it. And so we would be more than willing to talk to someone if they're more well-known in a certain field and they want to work with our science team to create one of these thought leader panels. And there's revenue potential within those thought leader panels. So if you contact us at that email address, we can reach back out and start that conversation.
Great answer. Another question is how does this compare to, and this was brought out to Great Smokies, but any of the other genomic testing companies out there?
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of genomic testing companies out there. I'm not 100% familiar with Great Smokies, but I can tell you, out of all of the competition, what sets us apart is our reporting and our customization. So How we built this was specifically for practitioners, like I said. So we're very receptive to practitioner requests, and we also allow for these custom panels. And basically, I haven't found other companies that allow you to customize panels. They'll have set panels, and you can purchase those panels. But we allow for you to add different traits, to add even different SNPs if you want to. And then our recommendations are really what set us apart. So they're very robust, and we provide those to you. We've done all of the research, and then we allow you to customize those to fit your needs and to personalize it to you.
Great, that's a great answer. We're actually going to take a question now from Neil. Neil, let me see, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead and ask your question. You have to unmute yourself, Neil. There you go.
Okay, got it. I'm looking at the gene variation on the report, and it has the SMP, the RSID, your result, and the effect. Can you just go through one of those, an example of what that all means in terms of mostly the result and the variant or non-variant? Is the non-variant mean that it's not a problem with that person?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and I'll tell you, we are making a slight modification to the way that we are presenting that, just to make it a little bit less confusing. But I don't have it in front of me, but just thinking about what it looks like. So we give you the gene, and then we give you the SNP. So all SNPs are basically, the way that we know what they are, they're tagged as RS numbers or RS IDs. And so it'll always say RS, and then there'll be a number, and that's the individual variation. That's the individual SNP. And then, so a single gene might have like 4 RSIDs, so 4 different variations that we might look at. And then your result is basically, I talked about the DNA letters. So there's only 4 letters that you can really have in your DNA, and C pairs with G and A pairs with T. And that, when I say pairs with, you get a set of DNA from your mom and a set from your dad, and then so you basically get 1 letter from your mom, 1 letter from your dad, and those pair. Now, one of those letters is the variant, which is basically the thing that's increasing your predisposition or increasing your risk in some cases. And then one is the normal, and we call them alleles. So if it says variant, that means that you have one of those variants, one of those risk alleles. So it's putting you at greater risk for that particular trait. If it says non-variant, you don't have any of the risk alleles, and so you're at basically what we call a normal risk. So you're not at any increased risk.
Great answer, Jessica. Thank you. To actually go into a little further on this, and one of the other questions is, do we have any sample reports? And I can take this one. Is that yes, we have sample reports for all the panels now, and I do believe they are on our company share file that your rep should have access to give you a link so that you can go to in your practitioner resources. There should be a MyOrigin folder in there, and you can look at all the documentation that we have and all the sample reports. So that should give you a better look at what you're going to get and what you're going to receive as a practitioner. It's very helpful to look at those beforehand. And I think that answers what does the report look like. Jessica, do you have the ability to pull up a report? Do you have that handy?
I don't have one currently.
Okay, that's okay. I will send up a follow-up email, and I'll attach some reports so that you guys can see the reports. Another question was, can we upload other companies' saliva testing?
So do you want to take that one, Joel?
I'm going to go with no. This has to be done. Again, Jessica, I think the answer is no, because you do have a 23andMe connection, right, where you could upload those test results. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do. It's through a different company.
Okay.
We've started to move away from that, just because the problem is 23andMe doesn't test for many things that we test for, and so when our reports come out, they're basically, you're not getting everything. Gotcha. If you just use 23andMe.
Yeah, and so right now I know with MyOrigin we can't do that right now.
Yeah.
And then it says, do you offer a reduced price report to practitioners to familiarize themselves with your testing and your process? That is something that is coming, and I will have more information on that within the next month or so. We are working on a program so that you as practitioners have the ability to test yourselves and to see how everything works for yourself first at a reduced rate. All right, I think that answered. Oh, another question was, this gentleman is based in Sweden. Can the MyOrigin test kits be sent to Sweden? I'm going to put that on you, Jessica. Can we send these out of the country?
Yeah, so currently we cannot, but we are working on a solution for that. So genetic testing, there's a lot of different regulation in it, and the regulations are different overseas than they are in the United States and Canada. So hopefully our goal is in the next year to be able to ship overseas, but currently we're not able to do it.
Okay, great. Well, I think that answered all the oh, there's another one. How about Canada? I don't know if, again, I think the same reply works, is that I don't think we can send it into Canada as of yet. Is that correct?
So Canada, there is a way. We would just have to talk to the individual practitioner, so to figure out if it's possible, because it's dependent on a couple of things.
Okay.
So if the person who's asking, if you email us, we can reach out and we can have a conversation about it.
Perfect. Another question, which is what I was going to follow up with if anybody has no more questions, is that we will have this recorded. It takes a little bit for us to process, but what we'll do is we will clean this up and we'll send it over and put it on the MyOrigin section of our website, and you'll be able to find it underneath that section. Let's see. Can this protocol be linked to someone that has I can't say the word, pharmacogenetic test results?
Could it be linked to someone who has pharmacogenetic test results?
Yes, that's what it's asking.
So I don't think I 100% understand. So currently, MyOrigin, we don't do pharmacogenetics. So if someone does have pharmacogenetic test results, then we would recommend doing this in addition, because it's just going to give you a more holistic picture. I know we're working on a pharmacogenetic solution or pharmacogenomic solution as well, but we basically do wellness and healthcare testing right now, and we don't look at pharmacogenomics, which is basically how your body responds to different pharmaceutical medications.
Perfect, thank you. All right, if there's no more questions. Oh, there's a follow-up question there. I have them from the mail. What can it be tied in? What can it do to be tied in? So he's saying he has them from the Mayo. So what can he do to tie them into our testing? And I don't think there is anything that we can do at this point.
No, we're not able to use third-party basically analyses, and with a pharmacogenomics test, the SNPs are completely different anyway. So I think it's great to have both, and I would strongly recommend just keeping those and pairing them or marrying them with our testing.
Gotcha. Let's see. There's a couple more coming in. Do you have any marketing materials for a website, social media platforms that?
Yeah. Yep. So that's all in our. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say that's all in our toolbox session of the MyOrigin. You'll be able to find all the resources, posters and pictures, and the patient guides and the practitioner guide. We have all sorts of materials in there that you guys can have at.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, so we're actually even making more just marketing materials for our doctors, and so we do have those posters and those flyers and trifolds for you, and we also have some email copy. So if you have an email list and that's one of the ways you communicate, we have that available for you too.
Excellent. All right, if there's no other questions, I would like to thank you, Dr. Jessica, for spending this time with us and really kind of taking a deep dive into MyOrigin and how it works in our system. Like I said, this program was recorded. It's going to be on our website for you guys to view. And if you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to the MyOrigin@nutridyne.com and ask them that question. They'll triage that question. They'll get to the appropriate people. Or if you need something sooner, you can always reach out to your rep and ask them the question, and we'll try to fast track that for you. Again, we'd like to thank everybody for their time, and please stay tuned because we are going to have another webinar sometime in March. I think it's in the latter part of March. And if you want, you can email that email address is on the screen right now to give us some suggestions of what topics you would like to learn more about on our next webinar. Again, thank you everybody, and we appreciate your time.